So with this thing, let's just test it to show what's going on.
What a good lad.
It's got lag.
I said, what a good lad.
Oh god, what a good lad. So I'm recording, but I'm on a call with a couple friends as I'm explaining what I did. But this is for me anyway, so we can talk. It triggers this like random talking. There's 4 frames. Do you like pancakes? Yes. Change the face to something scary. And then let's try again. We'll do no this time. No. And then he melts. And it looks really bad.
Glitch like that.
It is not supposed to glitch like that. Like, were you meaning the black?
The face. Yeah.
Oh, the face. Yeah, it is supposed to glitch like that.
Okay.
So how are we doing it? That's a good question. So, where should I start? Well, first off, so I basically set up a texture. Let's see. Let me pull it up. General 3D. Okay, cool. So here is the texture that I made. And so in the green channel, so this is basically just like a tiny sprite sheet, but I'm doing it for every channel. So in the red channel, we have one state. In the green channel, we have another state. That's all the talking. The blue is the creepy, happy one. And then in the alpha channel, there is the sad state. So I just I went in to Blender. It's loading very slowly. And so I just took this sphere and I didn't do an orthographic project, but I did project it from about where the player would be seeing it so that they would see it the way I wanted it to. And I just did a project from view, scaled it up a bit, and then I exported this with UV export layout. And then that made this. I pulled this into Photoshop and I just drew on top of it. And I wanted it to have that kind of like sketch animation style, so I just did the same thing 4 times. And then I just exported these. Then here's the talking one. I just labeled them T1, 2, 3, 4. And then here's the sad one. That's the glitchy one. Yep, I could do 4 states with the channels this way. And like this is like over optimization. This is like unnecessary optimization, but like I'm like, I'll just store everything in one texture file. Boom, there it is, and it's not switching out texture files. And for me, it's kind of fun to challenge myself, like how can I make this like the most optimized?
It's a great time.
Yeah, I actually only did 3 here, because it was gonna go back and forth, but well, then you would just use more textures. So what I could do, like, So I'm using these as masks, obviously. So wherever it's white, I can put in a color, and wherever it's black, it's going to be opaque. But I would just use like, you know, very similar to sprite sheets. I would just make like another sprite sheet for another animation probably. But because I don't know, it's just fun to figure out, I put it all in one. So I exported all those, and then I went into Substance Designer just because I could have done this in Photoshop just fine, but I would have had to like manually, I didn't know how to just like, so in Substance Designer I can tell it to make like a grid with the tile sampler. So tile sampler, and with the tile sampler you can make grids really easily. Why is it so low? 64. I don't know why it's so low. Oh, whoops, yeah. There we go. But yeah, so you can make grids really easily, so I can just feed it. I can feed my things into this and it'll automatically make it and position it and everything. Like, this was just if I wanted to update one of the textures, I could, and it would just automatically pump it into this thing without having to think about it, because it's a linked file. Like, here are all the textures that are linked. And so if I exported that, it would just update, and then, so I'm doing this with every single one. And then for the one that has 3, I'm just feeding the second one into the 4th input. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I feed it all into an RGBA merge thing. So it's just, all right, this one goes into the red channel, and this one goes into blue, and it just does that with all of them. So here's red, green, blue, alpha. Awesome. And then I just click this, I click save. And then in Unreal now, let's see. So for this, let's find it first. Okay, in the sphere. So we've got the static mesh, which, why don't you do that? There we go. We've got the static mesh and then the material. So the material, don't get scared. I just copied and pasted a Flipbook node. So I just did right click, Flipbook. Oops, Flipbook wind. I don't know what that is. Oh, wind. Flipbook. So I just did this Flipbook thing, which will, in the material, it will just treat, it's just like this. So if I've got a GIF and I just want it to play as a material instead of like Unreal Engine's like, they have like the whole Flipbook system, paper 2D stuff, and I don't know, it seems unnecessary. So I just need it plain. At least it seems unnecessary for my stuff. So I went into the Flipbook thing. I copied and pasted it instead of using this because it doesn't have like a time, like you can't control how fast the frames go. And I had initially plugged in like a time multiply thing to slow it down and speed it up. But then when I saved it and came back in, it had like killed it. Like it didn't like that I'd put it in this. So I just took it all out. And so I just put it out here and connected things back up and just left it the way it was. So this right here is just the Flipbook node. As you can see, Flipbook node. So here's our texture. Oopsies. What the heck? Oh yeah. So there's our texture down here. I can close that. No. So there it is. And then the flipbook node, you just tell it how many columns and rows you have. So I have 2 by 2. For the skeleton, I've got like 15 by 14. And then it has the math already set up. I don't fully understand it yet, but if I spend enough time poking at it, I'm sure I can figure it out. But it's basically shrinking it, dividing the UV size to whatever you put it as, and then offsetting it by that same amount. Yes, and it just like moves it along. So so I just copied as well. Like I copied this. These were like the tooltips and the stuff written in the flipbook node, and I just copied it. It was like for this, and I actually made that one myself, but this one, like I just copied and pasted the descriptions and stuff so I could understand what was going on. But yeah, it's just like it's scrolling through them just like the flipbook stuff is. So it like goes along the first row, then when it hits the end of the first row, it goes along the second and third, and so it's just going between them. So that's the default behavior. But I wanted to do specifically for the sad face, I wanted like the random stuff. So how I got the faces to show up. So here's our texture with all of them. We have RGB and A. You can do like a 4 thing, and you can have RGB and A here, but for some reason I needed to control it with blueprints, and with blueprints it just, if you want to set it with blueprints, it gives you a 3 vector or it gives you an alpha or a scalar value, but it doesn't give you 4. So like I just had to do like 4 different. Anyway, so I'm masking out. I'm basically selecting the color. So whatever is in the red, if I multiply it with red, then only the red's going to show up because all the other colors are black. And if you multiply 1 with 0, you're going to get 0. So green is only going to show the green values. I could do both if I wanted. I could do all of them if I wanted, but that's not what we want. So, and then yeah, just in this case, I am using this, but you could, if you didn't want to control it elsewhere, you could just do it. You could just do it with this here, or the alpha, or whatever. So yeah, I'm separating them all. So I'm grabbing these and sticking the RGB into this RGB to multiply them. So that'll select like which one you want, and then just doing the same thing for the alpha. So it's just, this is like all one thing. And then now that we have it, if I let's put this at 0. The problem I was running into was, so we got red. We'll just do green. Oops, that's not green, that's blue. So we'll just keep this on as default for now. But the problem I was having, so I just fed this straight into it, but if I put this into the color, which would be, I don't know, let's just do this. If I put it into the color, then it's green. And I needed it to just be white because I wanted to use it as a color mask. So how do you separate just the green color and just make it white? You basically just have to take every individual channel as one. Like if I pull from, every channel is just 0 to 1. So I just fed them all through like a max value. So what is the max out of red and green? Okay, it's green's on, so it's just going to be, we're going to take 1, which is the max value. And then, yeah, same with all the channels. So I'm just getting the max of all the channels, and then I'm using it as a mask. So that's how we're getting the faces to show up. But I wanted, with the random frame rate thing, I wanted to play around with that. So what I did to get a random value, there's a noise node, so that like procedurally generates just a noise, so it's always going to be random. And I'm feeding a time, so over time the noise is, it's progressing, or I'm like moving through the noise. And so because time is only like one dimensional input, at least in this case, I don't have three numbers, it's just one, and it's always progressing and counting up, then I can always move through position, so it's always changing. Lately I've been trying to do like enable real-time preview, but it's been crashing, so I'm not going to do that. Oh, that's good. You can at least see that. So what this is doing, I'm feeding the noise. So kind of like Blender's, if you do a color ramp, oopsies, color ramp, and you feed like a gradient into this, or I guess I just do that. So if I do a gradient like that, then I can remap what 0 is. So I can say 0 is red, and I can say in the middle we have green, and somewhere around here we got blue. So it's just turning the position of the gradient, right? And then I can clamp it, so it's just a constant color. Say that's here, this is 0.25, this is 0.5, and then this alpha is 0.75. So now I have this like clean gradient. So this would be, in this case, no, this is nothing to do with the masks that I made, or the red, green, blue, and alpha channels. This is actually something else. So what I'm actually doing is, I guess it would be more easy to understand if I did it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm just stepping this gradient, so I'm locking it to 4 values. 0.5, and then yeah, this could be, I guess it could be 0.75, but I'm just locking it to 4 different values. And then so this is a nice smooth gradient, but then I'm feeding the smooth gradient into this, so there's only 4 values that it can be. So okay, if you're in the gradient here, then you're only going to be black. Okay, you passed the threshold, now you're in this one. So I just needed the random color as it's flashing through, the random noise. I needed that to just give me only 4. And because it's all over between 0 and 1, I was like, okay, you're wherever you are. Yep, so it's just stepping it into 4. So that's what I'm doing with this. So I fed it a texture, which is this texture here. Oopsies. So I just basically did what I showed you, which I guess I could have just done. I really could have just done the grayscale thing that I showed you. This probably overcomplicates it actually, but whatever. I didn't think of that at the time. That would have given me just an easier value. Then I wouldn't have to do all this, so that would have been cleaner. But I'm basically saying, okay, if you're red, you are 0.25. If you're green, then you're 0.5. If you're blue, then you're 0.75. And if you're alpha, then you're 1. But yeah, I really could have just done... I could have just done what I did in Blender instead of like separating it. Like if I just fed this, if I made a texture that was just this, I could have bypassed all this other crap that I'm doing, where I'm combining all the colors now. Yeah, that's a mess. So, oh well, hindsight. And then I'm just saying that I want this random time to mask, or I want this random time to set the frame rate instead of anything else. Oops. And so initially, oh no, where is it? There it is. Well, whatever. But yeah, so initially I was just, before it was a lerp, so I could say like, well, maybe I'll go back. First it was linear time, so just 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Then this was a switch that would go between random or time, depending on if this was true or false. So then I would have to set that per one, and I thought, no, that's no good. This was a lerp, which means it'll interpolate between A or B, so it'll either be random or just a linear time based on this. Initially I just had it just on alpha, so if you were alpha, then it was going to show as the random time. But then I could add whatever I want. I could add like green if I wanted to do that. So I want green and alpha to be random. Yeah, well that's fine. But anyway, so it's just this is the important thing here, is that this is random and that we're feeding it wherever the time was going, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, we're just replacing it with this random value instead of 1 4 2 4 3 1 1 5 whatever, no 5 but whatever. This just, so this will tell me what frame it's going to jump to, and I'm not going to cover any of this because I don't understand it fully. But here we go, we can see every state there. That's cool. But anyway, yeah, so that's how I'm getting the mask.
Can you also describe how you got a black outline around the sphere when it was normal?
You're a bit muffled, but I think I got what you said. You want to see how I got the black outline. So this thing. So in this case, this is simpler to there's a couple of ways to go about doing something like this, and one of the ways is by using Fresnel. Do you know what Fresnel is? So Fresnel is like when you look at a surface, kind of like if you do take like a ball and you can see there's kind of like this, like the light is catching on the side of it. It's almost brighter right on the surface and right at the edge from your eye. It's like all the light's collecting right there. So actually a way to see this is so right here, and then we can change this to 4. So it's like all around the edges, it's kind of like has this soft. Yeah. It's like rim lighting. Yeah. So then all I'm doing is I'm just like turning up the contrast to an insane amount, to 100, and then that gives me this. So I'm just using that as my mask. Like, okay, great, I've got a mask. Now what do I want to do with it? I'm going to feed it into a color, but I'm going to say, and it's just black and white. So I'm not using any like color values here. I'm just using like 1 and 0. So I'm saying, okay, wherever it's white, I actually want it to be black, and wherever it's black, I want it to be white. So then after I switch it, ta-da, there's that, and then I put on top of it the face. So there's this, and I'm combining this. Oops. Oh, because it's just the mask. So I'm combining that. I'm making it black, and then I'm putting it on top of the white surface. And then I just have a control that lets me turn it brighter and stuff. So it doesn't need to be that bright in the actual game, so I turned it way down. It was like glowing. Look, I'll do 1, save it, and then if I go hello, if I go here, like there's this white light. Whoa, it's like the sun. So I was like, we don't need that. I'll just 0.1, save it. There we go. I really didn't want to give it. I didn't want any lighting to be on really, so I could probably turn it down lower, but yeah, I don't know. I can fiddle with that. So yeah, and now the final step, now that all that's set up, like how do you control that? I'm not going to go into like all of the chat logic. I actually did that in another video, but I'm basically saying like I'm finding the points, like wherever we are, wherever there's a response. Oh, I changed the default in the material, so we'd have to change that back to red. In the script, I could just say like when we first start it, make sure that it's neutral, but yeah. Mm-hmm. So every time we have a like text state, I'm telling it to change, and I'm telling it like, okay, it'd be red now, or be green now, be blue, or be alpha. So right at the beginning, actually, yeah, look at that, it is natural. So begin play. Oh, I might have to wait, like give it a delay or something. Yeah, just so that everything can load. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Maybe not. It's not that important anyway. But so I'm just saying that when we start talking, so here we go. The conditions have been met. Now we can start talking. So we're going to the first style thing, hello, and then do you like pancakes? Those two chat things, those are up here. So then that's where I'm setting the talking state, which I defined in this. All this is like, okay, grab the sphere and change the material value to be like whatever we set it as. And what we set it as is if it's, oh, look at that. Oh, what the? We are missing a variable. That's why it wasn't doing it. So whenever this is called, it sets everything to a blank state. Okay, boom, reset. And then depending on what you select, is it natural, talking, happy or sad? Then we're going to say, okay, yep, it's neutral, it's talking, it's happy or it's sad, depending on what you select. And then we're going to feed whatever the new input is. Man, what in the world? Why did it do that? There we go. Then we're going to feed it into a, like we're just setting the value on the material, which would be right. Oh my, that was loud. So right here, we've exposed it so we can set it in a blueprint. So I'm saying, okay, if it's neutral, then it's like a Boolean value is just 1 or 0. So we can just say, okay, 1 and turn everything off of 0. That's when we first run this. Everything's 0, and then we're setting to one of them as on. And then, yeah, so I'm doing that just wherever the text is called. And so here's our yes response. And then we have the happy state being called. And then here's the sad state being called with the no response. And yeah, beforehand it is neutral. I guess we can probably get rid of that now. So this makes it so that no matter what the default is in the material, when it starts up, because it's event begin play, we'll set it to the neutral when it's beginning. And then yeah, then it dies. So after the no response, we're just shrinking it, which I've figured out after some trial and error. And then there's the steam effects, and then poof, it's gone. So that's how I did it. That's really it.